RosterWatch Nation, what is up, and welcome back to the TreVeyon Henderson Dance Party. Top 10 Thoughts edition from week 10. We're back. I'm Cody Carpentier from RosterWatch Nation, rosterwatch.com. Drink it in. Drink it in. Drink all of it in. We're going to start this thing off the rip. I don't even care. This is going to be not your natural flow. I know a couple weeks ago we did one and I said, I didn't even have my notes prepared. I got my notes prepared today, baby. And the number one takeaway from week 10 in the 2025 NFL season is the TreVeyon Henderson dance party is now. And we waited long enough through Ramondre Stevenson carries, Terrell Jennings carries, TreVeyon Henderson benchings, it almost feels like at times, Ramondre fumbles, TreVeyon fumble, one fumble, and plenty of opportunities. Stefon Diggs said he talked to TreVeyon Henderson before the game this weekend and told him that, he'd play with some really good running backs to his career and that he reminded him of those guys. And the best thing about those guys was that those guys didn't get tackled. And I thought to myself, who did Stefon Diggs play with throughout his career? Dalvin Cook in Minnesota, James Cook. Hey, wasn't there a quote from like 4 weeks ago when the Patriots played the Bills and they asked Mike Vrabel, what's it like practicing and preparing for a guy like James Cook? And he said, well, if we had a guy like James Cook, we'd use him. And I talked about it on the show. I laughed at him. I said, dude, you have James Cook. You got a James Cook on your roster. What are you doing? What are you talking about? Stefon Diggs also played with Joe Mixon, guys like this, right? The last couple of years when he was down in Houston. 83% snap share for TreVeyon Henderson in week 10. 15 touches. Only 15 touches on an 83% snap share. He was out there for more opportunities than he's ever been in his life and in the NFL. 202 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks. 277 yards over the last 3 weeks. Ramondre Stevenson had 279 yards and 3 touchdowns in the first 8 games of the year, which is 2 more yards than Henderson had the last 3 weeks combined. The run defenses he went against, a top 10 run defense against the Browns, a middling run defense in Tampa Bay, and a very easy run defense in the Atlanta Falcons. And he blew through those defenses these last couple of weeks, carrying and continuing to elevate this New England Patriot team to score 31, 32, 24, 28 the last 4 weeks. Again, the competition level, Tampa, Atlanta, Cleveland, Tennessee, it's not the top of the food chain, but it's bad in Tennessee and mild in Cleveland and decent in Atlanta and good in Tampa. It's getting better and better. Now, our schedule on the way out is a short week against the Jets. He should get the opportunity. I doubt Ramondre is going to be back, and if he is, it's not going to be in full capacity. The Bengals, which with Joe Burrow back, should lend more opportunities in the passing game. And the Giants, before their bye week and their home stretch, their final stretch as they go to try to become the best team in the league from a record standpoint as the season ends. TreVeyon Henderson is here. TreVeyon Henderson has league winner written all over him unless Mike Vrabel puts the genie back in the bottle. Vrabes, we're praying you don't do that. Just please, we're just begging you not to put the genie back in the bottle with TreVeyon Henderson and allow him to assist you and help you win this game. Again, you're up 14-10 at halftime. And to come out in the second half, Henderson goes 55 yards down the left sideline for a touchdown, 21-10. Then they give up a touchdown to Tez Johnson. They get the ball back late in the fourth quarter. He has a 69-yard touchdown run. That's what TreVeyon Henderson can do for you. Not only that, but he looks over to the sideline when he's running full speed down the sideline to score this touchdown to make sure it's okay that he can score because you're up 21-16. Should I fall down with a minute and 20 seconds left on the clock? And so we can just milk this thing. And they go, nah, take it into the end zone. He does that. You give up the touchdown a minute later to Tez Johnson again. So maybe he should have fell down. Maybe the coaches should have said, go down, go down, go down. But then the stat line doesn't look as incredible for TreVeyon Henderson. 14 for 147 and 2 on the ground. Only has 1 catch for 3 yards in the air. So 150-yard game. The breakout we've been waiting for our golden son, TreVeyon Henderson on the New England Patriots. Again, he moved up draft boards very quickly before the season, and people have been upset because he hasn't done a lot. He gave us a running back 15 finish last week, a running back 4 finish this week. We're in the era of TreVeyon. And what did Bill Belichick always say? You play your best football at Thanksgiving, and now he's played 2 games since Thanksgiving, and he's one of the best running backs in the sport at the current point in time. Number 2, NFL MVP odds leaders have updated. Drake May is now tied with Matthew Stafford for number 1 overall at plus 300. Drake May continued his torrent path, 16 for 31, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick in that game with TreVeyon Henderson. Statistically, though, the best quarterback in the league by far, is not Daniel Jones. It's not Justin Herbert, even though they're the top 2 leading passers in yards. It's Matthew Stafford, who's 4th in yards, but his touchdown to interception ratio is 25-2. 25-2. So he's on pace for, I think, around 47 touchdowns and like 3.7 interceptions, which is maniacal work. Jared Goff is second best in touchdown interception ratio. He's 20 touchdowns to 3 picks. So he's on pace for about 38 and 5. That's not quite 47 and 3 like Matthew Stafford is on pace for right now. Matthew Stafford and the Rams had a good game this weekend against the San Francisco 49ers, battling for that division. They're on a 4-game win streak. Baltimore, Jacksonville, bye. New Orleans, and San Francisco. And those are all wins. And now they go home against Seattle, home against Tampa in 2 games that can put them to 9-2. And if they beat Seattle, that of course puts them in first in the division. They're tied right now for first place in that division. But those MVP odds have went up quickly. Jonathan Taylor may be the value, though. He's up there as well. I think it's plus 600 right now. He's 3rd in MVP odds. His counterpart, Daniel Jones, plus 6,000 for the MVP at the quarterback position for the Indianapolis Colts. Sorry about the lighting. My lighting is really not great tonight. Taylor's on pace for 2,450 total yards and 29 touchdowns. If you go back to the 2012 Adrian Peterson MVP season, when he came off the ACL, he had 2,097 rushing yards, which would be about 100 more than where Taylor would finish in the rushing perspective. He's, I think it's projecting high 1900s, and then 217 yards in the air. So Adrian Peterson had 2,314 total yards and 13 touchdowns. 12 of them are rushing. Again, 29 touchdowns for Taylor would be, that's what we're talking about right now. He had you have to have a bizarre stat line like that to get an MVP at the running back position. You're talking about Daniel Tomlinson level touchdown scoring, Sean Alexander level touchdown scoring, plus the rushing side and yardage and receiving. If he has 2,450 yards, it's going to be hard not to give him the trophy, especially in a season like this where there's not like a clear, like Josh Allen isn't the clear MVP, Pat's not the clear MVP, Lamar's not the clear MVP, Drake's playing really good, Stafford's playing really good, but Taylor can win this thing this year 100%. Caleb Williams, number 3, saves the Bears season, maybe. They were trailing 20-10 with 6 minutes to go against the New York Giants in that game. The Bears went on an 86-yard drive that was capped off with a Roma Dunze touchdown and a 53-yard drive that was capped off with a 17-yard Caleb Williams rushing touchdown. Our guy Charles Robinson over at Yahoo had maybe the tweet of the day in the middle of this game. I love following Charles. He tweeted out, I got to find the exact tweet here. Let's see here. Where did it go? It was at about 3:40 Eastern time. Charles said, the Bears, Caleb Williams just running around playing out of structure again. Ben Johnson is going to lose his mind. And About an hour and a half later, he quote tweeted and said, literally entire game changed after this. And it literally did, because it felt like Caleb was losing the game for them. And it ended up turning around that Caleb won the game for them on a bizarre 17-yard rushing touchdown with a minute 47 left. So in a matter of about 5 minutes, 4.5 minutes, they scored 2 touchdowns to take the lead, 24-21. The Giants collapse, and the Bears are now 6-3. The Bears move on to 6-1 in the last 7 games. Quietly one of the hottest teams in football. And this was Caleb's first back-to-back top 5 fantasy finish. When's the last time the Bears started 6-3 in a season? 2018 was the last time the Bears finished 6-3, or started 6-3 was the 2018 season. That 2018 season, of course, they finished, where'd they end up finishing that year? 12-4. They finished 12-4 that year. And they lost in the second round to the Eagles. Yikes. I just looked that up literally on the fly. That was Jordan Howard, Mitch Trubisky, Allen Robinson year. They lost to Foles. And of course, Foles goes on to not win. That was the Patriot Ram championship year. But the point is, Caleb Williams continuing to keep this Bears thing on track. The Bears look entirely different than they really did last year. Look at that shadow. That shadow is horrible on the video. Sorry about that for the video people. On podcast, you have no idea what I'm talking about. Takeaway number 4. Speaking of quarterback, Jackson Dart. Brian Daboll was fired today. They might as well just let Dart take the next six weeks off and prepare for 2026, because this guy is getting beat up. He's the whole team. No Scattaboo, no Malik Neighbors, and it's making it kind of tough to watch, because you can tell like everything's on him and there's no talent around him to help him. Sunday was the 4th time this year that Jackson Dart has been evaluated for concussion, according to Adam Schefter. He is this entire team right now. He's finished as a top 13 quarterback in fantasy football points in each of the last 5 weeks. New York is 1-4 in that stretch. I put QB 13 because QB 12 is technically a QB 1 in any given week, but he had 1 week at QB 13. So I was like, you know what? It should count as the discussion point. Dart's a guy. I worry that maybe, like, it might sound stupid, but you've seen guys opt out before. You've seen guys kind of get sat down before, and like, you know, we'll talk. I'll just lump this in. Number 5, New York injuries. Like Garrett Wilson's out 3 to 4 weeks with a knee sprain. The Jets suck. Like, it would not surprise me to see him shut down for the season. Like, he's down 3 to 4 weeks. It's week 11 now. So week 11, 12, 13, potentially week 14. The Jets season's gone. Yeah, the Jets beat the Browns this weekend, but that was one of the most bizarre games I've ever read or watched, or, you know, seen the box score for anything. I'm still befuddled how the Jets scored 27 points and beat the Browns, despite nobody caught more than 1 football in the game. Nobody. One reception. 1 reception was the most anybody caught in this game for the New York Jets. It doesn't even make sense. Breece Hall was the leading receiver in this game. He had 1 catch. It was a 42-yard receiving touchdown. Isaiah Williams had 1. Mason Taylor had 1. John Mechie had 1. Jimmy Ruckert had 1. Breece Hall had 1. Only 1 receiver had a catch, Mechie. Only 1 player had more than 5 receiving yards, Hall, obviously with the 42. 2 players were targeted more than once in this game. Mason Taylor was targeted twice, caught 1 for 4 yards. Garrett Wilson was targeted 3 times, didn't catch a ball. They scored on a kick return touchdown, a punt return touchdown, 2 field goals, and that 42-yard touchdown to Breece Hall in the 4th quarter, which gave them the 24-17 lead, which allowed them to end up winning that game. The Jets suck, but the Cleveland Browns suck more, obviously, and they won the game. Garrett Wilson's not going to, I mean, I would bet money today Garrett Wilson's not going to be back this year. Like, you got a knee sprain, he's going to be out 3 to 4 weeks. This season, they're 2-7. They're going to be 2-10 or 3-9 by the time he comes back, maybe 3-10, maybe 2-11. Who knows? Why are you coming back? Why would you, as a coach, as a GM, as an owner, allow a player like that to come back? Because you got to play the game. Yeah, but that guy's making, you know, substantial amounts of your cap. That guy's so much more important to if a knee sprain comes back, tears that ACL. Now you're talking about 2026 is gone. Like these are business moves. These aren't just like, oh, it's the player doesn't have heart. This is a business move. Same with Jackson Dart. The guy is the answer. There's no talent. Scadaboo's not there. Neighbors ain't there. The guys around him aren't good enough. Like give Jameis the ball. Get Russ out of there. Give Jameis the ball. Let Jameis earn a job maybe in the future. I know it sounds dumb, but we've seen it work with some of these older quarterbacks the last couple of years. Think about Daniel Jones. Think about Sam Darnold. These revamps that we've got, and I think that you take Dart and you don't put it on wax. Don't put it on wax so that these defensive coordinators have a whole summer to think about him and to game plan against him, and to and for him to get hurt. Evaluated for 4 concussions. He's getting banged up, man. Let yourself play. I mean, you're now 3rd in the NFL draft order for next year, 2-8. New Orleans is 2-8. Tennessee's 1-8 right now. You're going to be a top 5 to 6 draft pick. Like, Dart is good enough to elevate you to a couple of wins, and that can take you out of that contention, but he's also good enough and he runs enough that he's going to get hurt. Packers, Lions, Pats, the next 3 weeks, that's a brutal stretch, And if he gets hurt in one of those games, that's a business decision. That's on Joe Shane, who should have been the one fired, not Brian Daboll. Joe Shane didn't want Jackson Dart. Joe Shane did not want Jackson Dart. Go watch the clip. Brian Daboll wanted Jackson Dart, and Brian Daboll was right. And now Brian Daboll is going to go get probably an offensive coordinator job somewhere or a head coaching job somewhere at the end of the year, and he's going to be fine because he's outside of incompetence. New York is full of incompetence. From the front office to the ownership, New York, Gents and Giants. I don't know. The last half decade to decade has been just, it is not Brian Daboll's fault. It's not Jackson Dart's fault. That roster is playing at the level that Joe Shane put it together. You hit on a couple of guys that are studs because of where you're at and what your coach wanted. Your coach wanted Dart. You fell into Neighbors. You got Scadaboo. I can only in my thoughts trust and know that Scadaboo was a Daboll guy. That only makes the most sense in the world. And so your 3 best players are there because of not you, Joe Shane. Not you. You're the one that should have had your ass paying for what this team looks like right now, not Brian Daboll. It's not Brian Daboll's complete fault that this team fell apart because it lacks talent against good teams like Denver, like the Bears, like the Niners, like the Eagles. It's not Daboll's complete fault that his roster's incompetent. Clearly, the way that you operate behind the scenes. Number 6, George Kittle finds his rhythm, and Jake Tongas takes a seat in San Francisco. Kittle was tight end 2 this week after Mac Jones threw for 320 yards and 3 touchdowns, not 2. Kittle was targeted 9 times alongside Juwan Jennings. McCaffrey had 10 targets again. He's well on his way to a 1,000 season. The matchup this week is week 11 against Arizona. George Kittle, historically against Arizona, does well. Has never been elite against him. Hasn't been a crusher like Kelsey against the Chargers. But excluding this last game in 2025, in January 2025, the last game of the year this last year, 3 for 27. The last game before that in 2024, 12 targets, 64 yards and a touchdown. Before that in 2023, 4 for 54, 1 for 19. 2 years ago in 2022, 2023, he had 6 for 84 and 2 touchdowns, 6 for 29, 2 touchdowns. Again, those are targets to yards. He's done well against the Cardinals. The Cardinals have always been wishy-washy against tight ends with their linebackers. But Kittle's back. Kittle's back into his full flow. It sounds like Ayuk's getting closer. Ricky Pearsall's getting closer. I like where the San Francisco 49ers team is at. They lose to the Rams this weekend, but I thought they had a chance. They got the Cardinals, the Panthers, the Browns, the Titans, the Colts, the Bears, the Seattle Seahawks. So the next 4 weeks, pretty good spot to be in, pretty decent spot to be in. They're a 10-win team, potentially 11. And if Purdy can get back and Pearsall can get back and Ayuk can get back coming out of that bye of week 14 into the week 15 game against the Titans, then you're ready for the Colts. Like, this team can get going. This can be a Super Bowl contending football team in San Francisco with a healthy George Kittle and everybody else. Speaking of playoffs, Jacksonville and Pittsburgh are sitting in playoff spots right now, but I feel like that's all they're doing. Neither team feels good enough to be in this conversation. Jacksonville loses on the last second touchdown to Houston and Davis Mills. Pittsburgh gets run out of the building against the Chargers. It feels inevitable that those are just seat warmers for Kansas City and for Baltimore right now. Kansas City's at 5-4 on the outside looking into the playoffs. They're coming off a bye this week. Couple of big games: Denver, Indy, Dallas, Houston, Chargers, Titans. Like, Kansas City is going to get to 9 or 10 wins, which is going to be good enough to get them in. I don't think the same can be said for the other side with Jacksonville. And as far as the Pittsburgh spot go, they're 5-4. Baltimore's 4-5. Cincinnati's 3-6. Baltimore, we've talked about this, and I guess I can just move on to, one of the honorable mention thoughts. I must just lump it in here. We've talked about it each week. If you don't believe, you should start believing. Like, Baltimore's going to push to run the table. Like, they started 1-5. I would not be shocked if Baltimore were to come close to running the table. And we've talked about this for the last couple of weeks. Like, 1-5. This doesn't happen. But the amount of injuries that Baltimore had doesn't happen either. Lamar, Henry, Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers. This is the best the Ravens offense has looked in a minute. Like, they're cohesively playing football together. Zay Flowers getting you 60, 70 yards. Henry's running for 60, 70, 80 yards. Lamar's playing good football. Andrews is catching his touchdowns. This is a football team. And Baltimore's schedule's not that tough. They've just beat the Bears and the Vikings in Miami. Was that Monday Night Football or was that Thursday Night? Thursday Night Football. Now they have Cleveland at home, on the road. Jets at home, Bengals at home, Steelers at home, Bengals on the road, New England. So at that point, when they go to New England, they could win the next 5 games. They'll be 9-5 if they beat the Browns, Jets, Bengals, Steelers, Bengals. They'll be 9-5 from 1-5 to 9-5, competing with New England. Then they have Green Bay and Pittsburgh. Baltimore and KC are going to the playoffs. Jacksonville and Pittsburgh are sitting in right now just as seat warmers. Number 8, JSN continues his climb. He's now projected on a 17-game total for 119 receptions, 1,966 yards, and 9 touchdowns. That is 2 more yards than Calvin Johnson in 2012. One more game. Yes, I get that. But he is playing at a different level right now. He's playing like as much as people talk about Puka Nacua. Yeah, Puka's great. JSN is playing at an elite level as well. Speaking of wide receivers playing at an elite level, Jalen Waddle since Tyreek Hill's injury, wide receiver 8, wide receiver 7, wide receiver 88. He was injured in that Browns game. Wide receiver 5, 25, and wide receiver 13 this past week with a Dolphins win against Buffalo. He's now wide receiver 11 overall in the season, and he's wide receiver 6 since the Tyreek Hill injury. We talked about target share and the importance of targets in that offense, and that with a target share of 25 to 30%, what Jalen Waddle could do. Well, we're seeing it right here. He's a wide receiver 6 since that injury. Here's a random one. Thought number 10, shout out to the Saints for beating the Panthers this week. They did not see that. Not many people saw that one coming. Tyler Shook had a good game in that one. I think he threw for 266 yards. I want to say it was 266 was the stat line. Again, I'm not the biggest Saints. 282 and 2. 8 incompletions in that game. Olave for 104 yards. Juwan Johnson for 92. Kamara had 32. Kamara over 100 yards. Finally. The Saints beat the Panthers. So not only does that create the transitive property new AFC best team, but it also assists the Titans in pretty much locking up the number 1 overall pick. Saints-Titans play in week 17, but they're the Titans now have a game. They're now a game worse than the Saints. So we're pretty much this close to the Titans locking up the back-to-back number 1 overall picks again. The transitive property goes like this. Saints beat the Panthers. Panthers beat the Packers. Packers beat the Steelers, and the Steelers beat the Colts. So the Saints would be the best team in the AFC. I'm just kidding. Honorable mention. If not for Jonathan Taylor's career year, we'd be on the outside looking in of a Rico Dowdle rushing title right now. Let me say that again. If not for a Jonathan Taylor career year, where he's going to rush for probably 1,900 yards, we would be on the outside looking in of a Rico Dowdle rushing title potentially coming down the train tracks. 149 carries, 788, and 5 touchdowns. He had another 18 carries against the Rams this week for 53, or against the Saints this week for 53 yards and 1 rushing touchdown. This is a player that in the first 4 weeks of the season had like 83 yards. And since that Miami game, 206, 183, 79, 54, 130, and 53. Shout out to Rico Dowdle, man. Age 27. If not for Jonathan Taylor, he could be looking at a rushing title, which is bizarre. One more thing before we get out of here, and we got to get out of here because my lighting is ever so horrible if you're watching on YouTube. Joe Burrow's back, and as much as I love Joe Burrow, like he's going to play, he's getting back, he's talking about playoffs, he's talking about going on a run. They're not a playoff team. They're 3-6, and they have the most brutal 6-game stretch coming up. We're probably going to lose out on our otherworldly target shares for Jamar Chase that we've got in the last month from Joe Flacco. Shout out to Joe Flacco for his October performance. The Bengals, next 6 weeks, at Pittsburgh, New England, at Baltimore, at Buffalo, Baltimore, at Miami. The next 6 weeks. I love Joe Burrow. I love Jamar Chase. This ain't their year. This ain't the team. Just give the Bengals the 12th overall pick, and let's all move on.
This is Anthony Richardson, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
This is AJ Brown, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
This is Josh Allen, and you're listening to RosterWatch.